Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Kansei, the second turn HD, running on Series X. Let's examine. I doubt Kevin would appreciate it if I poked around all this stuff. I should probably wait for a time when he's not around. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk then. What should I talk about? That's all for now.
Come by if you want to ask me anything else.
Let's see, where haven't I been? Let's see, a retina scanner. Sophia changed the settings so that it will unlock the door for me. Just goes to the basement, right? And this is the circuit breaker. I think I've been here. Detective Gursky stands across the room from me, arms folded across his chest. He appears to be in deep thought, but it's not long before he notices that I'm looking at him.
What?
Nothing.
Well, that's not true.
Nothing I want to talk about then. He uncrosses his arms and sighs.
I don't know where you've been all these years or why, but that look in your eyes is still the same.
What look?
The one that says you're already trying to figure everything out. It's like watching someone who just started work on a puzzle. You're digging through the pieces and looking to build a frame, but you don't have much yet.
That much is true. I don't remember seeing you here before, though.
I doubt you would. We've never met in person. I sure heard a lot about you, though. Both of you.
I suddenly feel my stomach knot up. How much is a lot?
Not enough, apparently. I thought you were dead. We all did.
Yeah, that was kind of on purpose.
Do you have any idea how much work was put into finding you?
Don't even start. I'm not in the mood to hear a lecture from someone who doesn't know what I'm going through.
You know, back in the day, I couldn't go 10 minutes without hearing your names. Oh, they're so great. What heroes these kids are. Why can't we have such helpful people here? What a joke. When we found her body, the first person they looked for was you, but you were nowhere to be found. At first, they thought you'd been kidnapped. As days passed, they thought maybe you'd been killed. When I saw you yesterday, I thought you had finally come back to do something worthwhile again.
I solved that murder for you, didn't I? What more do you want?
What about your sister's murder? You're the only witness, but you ran away. Why?
He doesn't understand anything. It has nothing to do with you, and I don't owe you an explanation.
That may be so, but you owe it to your sister, don't you? The case went cold, but maybe if you tell us what you know, we can find her killer.
I'd rather you don't get involved. This is something I have to deal with on my own.
Sorry, kid. I'm sworn to uphold the law. Even if you don't want me getting involved, I kinda have to.
I know, just... I sigh and let my hands fall to my sides. It's not what you think.
We'll talk about this more later, but I promise that this isn't over. I got a call this morning about my report from yesterday. You've already caused a disturbance with your return.
Oh no. Did Schultz find out yet?
Are you kidding? She was the first.
And that's why I didn't want to tell you who I was. I knew they'd all find out I was back.
They'd find you eventually. It was only a matter of time.
Am I in trouble?
Yeah, I'd say so. If it weren't for Aki's insistence that you stay with her, I'm sure they'd already have come to take you back.
This is not good. This is so not good. What am I supposed to do?
Oh, I don't know. Why don't you try actually having a backbone this time around?
Listen, I'm sorry, okay? I was 15 and stupid, and I shouldn't have run away. But can we just focus on the dead body we've got on our hands right now? I kind of feel like we're letting the past get in the way of the present.
The present only exists because of the past, you know.
Gursky studies my face carefully, gauging my reaction. Finally, he sighs and shakes his head.
But I see your point. Figuring out the cause of death for Mr. Otten does take priority right now. I'll be upstairs. Come talk to me if you find out anything.
How am I supposed to find out anything? There's nobody around. What should I talk about? Do you really think Mr. Otten was murdered? Detective Gursky sighs and rubs his temple slowly.
I don't know, kid. I can't just march in and declare it's a murder without any evidence. For all we know, he committed suicide.
Do you think he killed himself?
Hard to say. His reaction when he saw you certainly was unusual. It's not a level of fear you see in most people. He very likely could have done something foolish in response.
So you think it's my fault?
Now, I never said that. There are a lot of things that might drive someone to suicide. But in the end, it's still the decision of the individual.
Yeah, I know. Gursky studies my face carefully before he speaks.
Back then, didn't you...
Yeah, I did. But I really don't want to talk about it. Are Aki and the others really convicts?
Well, technically, no.
No.
They're not on record as having committed any crimes.
But Li Mei said you were their parole officer.
Handler is more like it. I'm supposed to make sure they don't cause any trouble.
He rolls his eyes.
That'll be the day.
More trouble? What sort of stuff have these guys been up to? But what did they even do?
Hustling, mostly. The twins ran a lot of cons. Aki's got some sort of charm about her that makes people trust her. She's really manipulative, and her life is nothing but moral gray. Naoki's a good kid, but he'll do anything his sister tells him to do. And he's a fast learner. He can pick up on pretty much anything. They came to Edgewater 2 years ago and wreaked havoc for a good year before we finally caught them.
He rubs his head slowly as if an old headache had just found its way back to him.
But Aki is Aki. Somehow she managed to cut a deal. Clean records in turn for their special services. So now the government uses them as investigators, spies, or anything else requiring a quick mind and an expendable body.
Ah, that's why she said they're a special investigation agency.
It's not an inaccurate statement. And on that note, be careful about what she says. She's not a liar, but she likes to tell misleading truths.
What about Li Mei? Where did she come from?
I'm afraid that's classified information.
I raise an eyebrow, but I don't press the question. It's obviously not something I want to get involved with. I found a bunch of these papers in the basement. Any idea what they're about? Detective Gursky takes the sheets from me and pages through them carefully. With each page he reads, his eyes widen.
He was told to destroy all of this.
What? What is it?
Old research. Very old research that certain people in the government want to pretend never happened.
How do you know this?
It's a long story, kid.
It's not like I have anywhere to be. He sighs.
Let's put it this way. A few years ago, I stumbled upon a lot of things I wasn't supposed to. Specifically, an old experiment that William Otten was involved with. I got in a lot of trouble for what I saw. I was supposed to be erased from the system entirely, but I was given a second chance, transferred to Edgewater, and stopped the twins who were running around the city causing trouble. They figured if they stuck me here, I'd be out of the way, and I'd have my hands full with the twins. I don't think they expected me to catch them so soon.
So you're the one who caught Aki and Naoki?
I was Aki's arresting officer, yes. We technically never caught Naoki.
He got away. I'm having trouble thinking of Naoki as the sort of guy who could run from the law for very long.
Aki went down fighting so that he could escape. We spent 3 days looking for him and not a thing. Then, less than an hour after she cut a deal, he showed up on our doorstep to turn himself in. Like magic.
He scowls.
Part of me suspects that she planned it all in advance.
Never mind.
All right, then.
What else do I have? As I enter the lobby, Aki races down the stairs and nearly runs me over. Whoa.
Oops, sorry, Con.
Where have you been?
I was just upstairs with Liam. Oh, don't look at me like that. It's not what you think.
Of course.
For your information, I was just asking Liam about the staff. Did you know that none of Mr. Otten's personal staff are paid?
What? That can't be true. Kevin said that Mr. Otten pays them well.
Well, then Kevin was lying.
What makes you think that Liam wasn't lying?
Let's just say that he strongly believes it's in his best interest to be truthful.
In other words, you used your Kansei.
Got it in one.
So, if Mr. Otten doesn't pay anyone, why do they work for him?
Kevin's family owns a small business that's in serious trouble. Mr. Otten pulled a few strings to keep the creditors away, and they'll stay away as long as Kevin works for him. As for Sophia, it seems her husband's heart is failing. Mr. Otten promised to move him to the top of the recipient list for the company's new organ creation project.
Whoa, so basically he gets people to be completely devoted to him by holding on to what they love, and in the end he doesn't have to pay a cent.
I have to admit, I'm actually kind of impressed.
This is getting complicated.
If we want to get to the bottom of this, we're going to need another look at the crime scene.
But Detective Gursky's guarding the door. I doubt he'd even let you in.
Oh, I'm the last person he'd let in. But we don't need the real thing. We've got something just as good.
Hello.
Naoki, what are you doing here? I thought you were with Sophia.
I called him here, of course.
Aki glances around the room quickly before taking a step towards her brother.
This is what my Kansei is actually good for.
Aki takes Naoki's hands in hers and closes her eyes.
Naoki, show us.
The world around me fades to black for a moment, and I find myself standing in a luxurious office. The world looks a little warmer and softer than I'm used to. It's kind of surreal. On the ground before me is a dead body, Mr. Otten, I assume. Are we in the office?
Of course not. We're still in the main lobby. You're looking at Naoki's memory right now. My Kansei allows me to share the thoughts of whoever I touch.
Okay, so what do we do now?
Have a look around, of course. Does anything look suspicious?
A fancy scroll with Chinese calligraphy on it. I have no idea what it says. Today's newspaper. Some kind of drink. I wonder what this is. Well, it's obviously alcohol. I guess cognac by the color. The ice in the glass hasn't melted yet, which means Mr. Otten was drinking this right before he died. Maybe the poison is in here. The poison's probably in here. A very comfortable looking chair befitting an executive officer. Mr. Otten's computer. The screen is dark. A lot of books. I think it's an encyclopedia set. A phone that's actually plugged into the wall. I suppose a landline is still more secure and reliable. I wonder why people instinctively search for their home whenever they see a map. Maybe we're searching for a feeling of belonging. Well, I found Edgewater for what it's worth. Some drawers. Too bad I can't get a look inside. If I were in a real office, I'd be able to read Mr. Otten's final moments. Unfortunately, I'm not in the real office. Judging by his skin color, I'd agree with Detective Gursky. This guy was poisoned. A bunch of shells. It's just, it's just Naoki's memory, so I can't see what's inside them. Guess that's all there is.
So, what do you think?
If I had to say, I'd guess the cognac on his desk. The ice wasn't melted, so he poured it recently. And if he didn't get to drink very much of it, so it may have been the source of the poison.
That's logical, but how could anyone poison his drink in the first place?
Maybe the killer poisoned the cognac before giving it to Mr. Otten.
If that's the case, then the murderer could be anyone.
So if we found out who gave him the cognac, we'd find the killer.
Then I'd guess we'll just have to figure out who bought it. Sophia probably knows who's given him gifts lately. Let's see, hallway, restroom, kitchen. One thing in the kitchen. What should I talk about? Does anyone in your family suffer from any kind of medical condition? Sophia places her hand on her hips and gives me a sharp glare.
Has someone been talking about my husband?
Oops, maybe I shouldn't have been so blunt about that. No, I was just asking. She eyes me carefully, weighing whether or not I'm telling the truth.
My husband is very ill right now, but it has nothing to do with Mr. Alton or anyone else here.
Are you sure? Sophia's eyes narrow.
Please do not pry into my private life. It's very rude.
Can you think of any reason why anyone would want to kill Mr. Otten?
Sadly, I could name several. Mr. Alton wasn't a very popular man in the business world. His most recent project stepped on a lot of toes.
And that would be...
Organ replication.
what?
Alton Engineering is concerned mostly with mechanical organs like artificial hearts or lungs. But lately, Mr. Alton has been trying to find a way to grow organs from living tissue. The process involves taking a tissue sample from the patient and using it to recreate the organ they need replaced. It ensures compatibility, and it allows for replacement of things impossible to substitute with mechanics, for instance bone marrow. The end goal was to be able to recreate any and all parts of the human body when necessary.
That sounds pretty sketchy.
Well, under certain circumstances it is. Of course, technicalities aside, the ethics of such research. Well, there were the obvious protests, demonstrations, and death threats.
Hang on, why didn't you mention this before?
I didn't think it was important.
Are you kidding? He received death threats and now he's dead? You seriously don't see the connection?
But none of them seemed like serious concerns. Besides, Mr. Alton received death threats for lots of his work. I didn't think this would be any different.
Oh, really? Why would people threaten to kill him?
He saved a lot of lives with his work, but people have died because of him too. Once in a while, one of the organs built by Alton Engineering malfunctions and someone dies as a result. It's not a common occurrence by any means, but they are tragic, and Mr. Alton often receives the full hatred of the victim's family. And of course it's very expensive to get a replacement organ. People have gone into debt over them, and that brings about much hatred as well.
It's starting to become more evident why Mr. Otten doesn't like living around people. If that many people hated me, I'd probably lock myself up too. You'd think that with all the lives he's saved, people wouldn't hate him so much.
It's really not as simple as that. It's possible to do good things with bad intention.
Whoa, she looks angry. I thought she was really distraught about Mr. Otten's death, but looking at her now, she definitely seems to be harboring anger towards him.
I'm sorry, I really don't know much more than this. The only thing I know about his work is what I wrote for his press releases. I know he kept copies of all of his research, but I'm afraid I wouldn't know where to look.
Was Mr. Otten planning to cut Liam from his will?
He was. Liam's actions were very costly in terms of both money and public image. Mr. Otten wanted to punish him for his cavalier attitude. When Liam took up dogfighting a few months ago, that was the last straw. Last week, Mr. Otten informed Liam that he would no longer be inheriting anything.
How did Liam take that?
He was furious, naturally. He called Mr. Otten a selfish and greedy old man, and he said that he'd make him regret his decision. Mr. Otten never got around to doing it. A lawyer was scheduled to visit next week. As it stands, all of Mr. Otten's fortune now belongs to Liam.
How convenient for Liam. Killing someone seems like a good way to get revenge, although I don't think Mr. Otten regrets much now that he's dead. Still, it's definitely something to keep in mind. I'll come back later.
Of course.
What should we talk about? Do you do everything your sister tells you to do? It seems like you keep giving up on what you want in order to please her.
Actually, it's sort of the other way around. Our mother died during birth, so Aki was the one who had to raise me. She gave up her life for my sake. I guess after making her life so difficult, I'm just trying to make things easier for her now. Besides, I don't do everything she tells me to. We argue all the time.
Seriously? Sure doesn't look like it to me.
Stay with us a little longer, and you'll see plenty.
Okay, thanks.
Feel free to come talk more if you want.
Not really, you weirdo. I think I examined everything here, right? Yeah, looks like it. Entrance, security room, kitchen, museum, living room, staircase, entrance. Ugh. Restroom. Kevin smirks at me as I enter.
You're an interesting guy, Kongai.
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, you keep some interesting company. I was bored, so I decided to run facial recognition on them. I found quite a few newsreels about them, complete with security camera footage and mugshots. I admit, I literally laughed out loud at the one where they sold ownership shares to the Space Needle.
They did what?
Oh, you didn't know? Like I said, you keep some interesting company. Weirdly enough, when I looked up their police records, they were completely empty. They haven't been charged with anything.
No surprise there. Detective Gursky said that Aki cut a deal. No doubt she used her Kansei to make her argument a little more compelling.
The other girl with you is the real problem, though.
Who, Lee May?
I couldn't find a single thing on her. No online profile, no yearbook, no images of her anywhere, and no connection to anything your other friends did.
So, maybe she doesn't like social networking and she was homeschooled. What's the big deal?
Dude, seriously? Gotta make a real effort to be that much of a ghost. There's no way that the government isn't involved in trying to cover something up.
You're one of those guys who think the moon landing was faked, aren't you?
Oh, come on, it's not like that. Besides, how much do you know about her anyway?
Well, I can't exactly tell him that she was a Kansei that makes her a human sponge for emotions. But beyond that, I really don't know a thing. Aki seemed comfortable about the topic, but Detective Gursky shut me down completely when I asked. I know enough.
Of course you do. You're the genius detective, after all.
Oh, no. Kevin taps a few keys on his keyboard and two of the monitors light up with an old newspaper article.
Genius siblings solve another cold case. I gotta admit, you're actually kinda cool. So, are you on a super secret mission right now or something?
Huh? What are you talking about?
You know, since you're using a fake name and hanging out with criminals and stuff.
Oh, right. If you found that article, it means he knows who I am. I hate this house. No, it's just Aki's nickname for me.
Well, that's disappointing.
Life's not all secret missions and government conspiracies, you know.
It would be cooler if it were.
So, how about your family's debt? Kevin's face darkens and he tugs on his hair nervously.
Yeah, that.
There's nothing to feel bad about.
You think so? Because I think there's plenty to feel bad about.
He glares at me.
My parents took out a loan so I could go to a good college, yeah? Everything looks okay until my last year, when the company suddenly changes their policy. The minimum payment shoots up, and the interest rate goes through the roof.
No, they can't do that.
Sure they can. It was in the contract, printed all tiny and in legal junk.
He rolls his eyes.
My parents are too trusting, but they wouldn't have gotten into this situation if it wasn't for me. And if I had been there, maybe I could have read the contract myself and seen something.
It looks like he wants to say more, but instead he merely gazes at the ground.
So yeah, I feel pretty bad about it. But what can I do, you know?
That's all for now.
Come by if you want to ask me anything else.
I know, I can't say they adopted the controls all that well. I mean, you still have to use the mouse pointer. And when you're using the D-pad to select items and places to go, it seems like it doesn't feel like what you're selecting makes sense. And what I mean by that is that if I hit the D-pad, I can select the notepad, which, why would I want to select the notepad? There's a button for the notepad. So there's no point in me selecting the notepad with, using the D-pad and not using the mouse to point at it. So I don't know why I need to do that. And then when I use my D-pad to select rooms, it doesn't really seem like it's very logical which room it picks. So, I'll pick this one, right? And then I'll go left and I'll pick the entrance. I can go up and then I highlight the notepad. And again, I don't need to highlight the notepad. There's a button for that. So, yeah, I think the interface could use some work, honestly. So then you end up using the, the left stick to move mouse pointer around, which is completely awkward in the console game. Certainly not ideal. I don't have any questions.
Sure thing. See you soon.
I mean, I really don't have a lot of places to go. Talk to you later. Going downstairs does me nothing. Did you learn anything else when you were speaking with Liam?
Well, he did mention that his uncle likes to drink.
That's not exactly news. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows that.
It sure makes poisoning him easy, though, huh?
So, you and the others are criminals, huh?
I see Miko has been talking to you.
Lee May is the one who told me.
Well, I won't deny that we've done things on both sides of the law. But we're not just a bunch of criminals, okay? I have my reasons.
I've explored as much of the house as I can.
But?
Well, I haven't gotten a good look at the security room. Kevin's always in there, and I don't want to be poking around while he's watching.
Good point. I wonder if there's a way to get him out of the room for a while.
Even if we could, the door would lock behind him. There's no way to open it without him. The only way to get in is to reset the power and override the system. You can't override the security without a code. Aki's eyes suddenly light up.
So what you're saying is, it is possible to enter without him.
No,
You just said that we could get it if we had a code.
but we don't. I don't think Sophia is going to tell us hers.
I'm pretty sure she already did.
What do you need?
Naoki appears beside me. He looks a little out of breath, as if he ran here as quickly as he could. Wait, did you just call him here?
Yeah,
Aki stares at me as if this should be obvious.
it's better than sending a text, although the range isn't that great.
She laughs.
But first things first.
She turns to Naoki and places her palms together, almost as if she's in a prayer.
I need a little favor, brother dearest.
He frowns.
Every time you say that we do something illegal,
Well, it's for a good cause.
you always say that too.
I suppose I do.
She smiles wildly, showing off her teeth in a cheesy grin.
But you'll help, right?
He sighs.
What do you want?
When you guys first opened Mr. Otten's office, you saw Sophia's security code, right?
Yeah, and I have to say, with the writing, there's a lot of tell, not show. So, why am I saying he sighs when you could just have the voice actor sigh? It's like a lot of kind of useless prose. You know, this is the kind of stuff that you have to think about when you're doing a visual novel. You have to realize it is both a visual novel, so people get to see things. So yeah, definitely show them. So you have to treat it like a movie in the sense that you have to show people things. But the good thing about visual novels is that you can also delve into things which you can't show people, like into people's thoughts or descriptions, or things like that. But you know, accents to conversations, just let the voice actors do that stuff. You know, why am I saying he sighs or he you know, or he sounds nervous? Just that doesn't need to be there. Naoki looks around apprehensively. It seems he already knows where this conversation is going.
Well, we're just going to try a little experiment and see if it works on other doors. Like the one on the security room.
She folds her arms across her chest and draws her back up. She paces between Naoki and I like a general giving orders.
I'll distract Kevin while Con turns the power off. Kevin will no doubt head to the basement to fix the problem. Once the power's back on, Naoki will use Sophia's code to get the two of you access to the security room. I'll stall Kevin long enough for you two to get a quick look. See what you can get and get out of there. Got it?
Naoki sighs. He looks resigned.
Got it.
Aki turns and looks at me expectantly. Yeah, I got it. I try not to sound too resentful. It's not an entirely terrible plan, but I don't like having Aki boss me around.
Good, then wait for my signal.
Aki strides down the hallway and knocks on the door to the security room. After a few moments, Kevin opens it and lets her inside.
Alright, Con, you're up.
As soon as Aki starts speaking, I turn and walk down the hallway with long, quick strides. I hurry past the rows of doors and I quickly make my way down to the basement. Once I arrive at the basement, I flip all the switches off. The room plunges into darkness.
Good job. Now get out, and quick.
I race upstairs and duck into the bathroom. Outside, I can hear muffled voices. Aki is talking to Kevin about something as he follows him down to the basement. After a few seconds, the lights flicker back on. At the same time, I hear the basement door slam shut.
Alright, guys, get going.
I crack the door to the bathroom open slowly. In the hallway, Naoki is already busy punching in a string of numbers into the security pad. His fingers race over the buttons, tapping each one in an even rhythm. The box peeps softly as the door opens. The two of us leap through it and begin our search through the meager contents of the security room. Some sort of recording device. I assume it stores footage of the security cameras. Stairs leading to the basement. Looks like the coast is clear for now, but Kevin might be back any time. Wow, a phone that's actually attached to a wall. I guess if cell phones don't work here, you need a landline after all. Let's see, main staircase. Not much going on. I think that's the upstairs hallway. Downstairs hallway. Kitchen, not much going on. In the basement. I get the feeling that I'm the first person who's been there in a while. That's the living room. A bunch of computer files. They're probably important. A bunch of lines of code. I can't understand any of it. Mr. On's collection of expensive things that break easily. A luxurious looking bedroom. I'm a bit envious. All I get is a couch in Aki's apartment. The main entrance. The road that leads to the house. There are a lot of trees outside. Someone's bedroom, I think. It looks nice and large. Map of the first floor. I think I've been in all these rooms. A map of the second floor. All that's there is Mr. Otten's office and a few bedrooms. The basement, it's pretty small. A computer. This is probably important. I kneel beside the computer to inspect it. Looks like it was custom built, but there's nothing suspicious about it. As I stand, I notice a yellow bit of cardboard tucked behind the computer. What's this? I pull it out gently. It's a folder stuffed with papers. This looks promising.
Con, Naoki, we're out of time. Get out of there.
I roll up the papers quickly and stuff them under my shirt. Naoki and I make a mad dash for the door. We burst out into the hallway, shut the door quickly behind us, then attempt a casual walk back into the lobby. The casual walk turns into more of a pitiful swagger, but thankfully there's no one in the lobby to see us. After a few minutes, Aki rejoins us.
So, find anything?
I show her and Naoki the papers that I discovered.
These numbers are pretty recent. I see a lot of references to other companies, but I'm not sure what they mean.
Likewise. Aki and Naoki both furrow their brows in concentration as they examine the papers. Despite their wildly different personalities, they still reflect each other's actions. Finally, Aki sighs and hands the papers back to me.
I've got nothing.
I take the pages back from her and roll them up again. Maybe someone else can tell me what they mean. I don't have anything else.
That's cool. We'll talk later.
Hey, con guy, right?
Liam approaches me as soon as I enter the hallway. Huh? Yeah, what's up? He runs his fingers through his hair and yawns.
Just wondering if you were on good terms with that police dude.
I wouldn't really say that I am.
Huh. Well, that sucks.
He shoves his hands in his pockets.
I told him I wanted to go, and he was all like, I can't leave because Uncle is something or other.
Dead, you mean? Liam stares at me as if I've just placed an octopus atop my head.
What are you talking about?
Mr. Otten is dead. He just died. Did Aki even tell him any of this when she was speaking with him? Liam's eyes dilate as he processes my statement.
Wait, so that means...
His eyes light up as a self-satisfied smirk spreads across his face.
Well, there's irony for you.
What's so ironic about it?
Oh, come on. What isn't ironic about it? The man makes artificial hearts for a living, but his own ticker fails on him?
I purse my lips and attempt to keep my voice calm. You don't seem that cut up about it.
Why should I be? He was due for it soon enough with the way he was drinking. A heart attack, right?
I wonder if I'd get in trouble for punching this guy in the face. No. It looks more like he was murdered. Again, Liam takes a few seconds to process my statement. When it finally registers, his face twists into an expression of fear.
Murdered?
Liam begins pacing back and forth, muttering to himself under his breath as he does.
No, it's definitely no. She said I had more time. Why?
He finally turns back to me and grabs my shoulders.
Are you sure it was murder?
Well, we won't be able to say for sure until the autopsy, but yeah, pretty sure.
No. This is not good. Not good.
He glances back and forth as if expecting to see something leap out of the shadows and take him.
I need to think.
He dashes off down to the hallway. Liam, wait. I take off after him and arrive in the main entrance just in time to see him race up the stairs. I follow him up the steps, but he's already disappeared by the time I get there. Turns out Mr. Otten was going to cut Liam from his will.
Well then, that's an interesting turn of events. Do you know why?
One too many run-ins with the law, it seems. The big one, apparently, was him getting involved in dogfighting. The Detective Gursky grimaces.
That would do it. Am I to assume that Mr. Otten never actually got around to making this all-important change in his will?
Yeah, Sophia said the lawyer was going to come by next week.
Great.
A lot of people are mad at Mr. Otten because of his research. Detective Gursky rolls his eyes.
Don't I know it. There have been multiple public demonstrations concerning Otten Engineering's work.
Do you think it might have had something to do with his death?
It's possible, but it's hardly likely. I don't see how any one of his demonstrators could have gotten in here to kill Mr. Otten. An attempt on his life by one of them is more likely to take the form of a gunman or a bomb.
Never mind.
Talk to you later.
I find these papers lying around. They're about some other companies, I think. What are they exactly?
Those are some of his ledgers from one of his smaller companies.
I didn't know he owned other companies.
Well, he's bought most of them up under various names or through organizations that he heads.
Meaning?
Meaning that his ownership of these companies is not readily evident.
So he owns them in secret.
Yes.
Why?
Many of these companies are financial institutions. His ownership of them could be seen as a conflict of interest with his business decisions at Otten Engineering.
Did anyone buy some cognac from Mr. Otten recently?
That's an odd question. Is there any reason you want to know?
Oops, good question. What should I tell her? I can't say I just happened to see it.
That's an odd question. Is there any reason you want to know?
We think I might. I just happened to see it and I was wondering.
Well, it hardly seems a pertinent question, but if you must satisfy your curiosity. Mr. Otten always purchased his own drinks. He never accepted gifts of any sort from people.
So basically, no one gave Mr. Otten his cognac. Still, anyone watching his habits could have poisoned it before it even arrived here. Maybe it was snuck in somehow? We're back at square one. Why do Aki and Detective Gursky hate each other so much?
Well, both of them have very strong personalities, but they have different approaches to solving problems. He thinks she's too impulsive, and she thinks he's too indecisive.
And what do you think?
I think they're both right, and I think things are gonna go terribly again if they don't realize this.
Again? What happened?
I guess...
Naoki bobs his head back and forth as if he's trying to think of a tactful way to say something very blunt.
Well, they both agreed that it was the worst blind date ever.
What?
Oh, please don't tell anyone I told you that.
Yeah, sure. I can keep my mouth shut. Naoki smiles back at me. He looks relieved.
I'm sorry, I have to get going.
What's up?
Aki wants me to look around upstairs for a bit.
Right. Okay, sure. See you, I guess? Who am I talking to? Well, apparently I don't talk to you at all. Again, look at... Where's my cursor? Okay, there it is. Okay, so we need to move, and anybody in the living room? Huh, Marissa's gone. I wonder where she went. It's all the same sort of thing. Yeah, and I wish there was like a back button. I mean, the fact that I have to go up here and hit done all the time, I mean, that's not very intuitive. I pace back and forth in the hallway slowly, attempting to piece together the puzzle. I feel like I'm close to something, but I just can't put my finger on it. My thoughts are interrupted by the sound of sirens. Looks like the police are finally here. All this investigation, I still haven't figured out who the killer is. Oh well, I guess really should just leave it to the professionals. My part in this case is over. Well, that's interesting. I clicked on everything. Is there something I didn't do to click on anything? Or is this just a fake out? Huh, that's interesting. I guess I need a walkthrough because I don't really see where I went wrong. I visited every location and asked every question that was available to me. So, yeah. Boy, how very strange. Yeah, I'll look through a walkthrough and see what I missed, and we'll get back into this. I'm sure probably most of you aren't satisfied with that ending, and neither am I. Anyway, this is Audapostrophe. You're watching Kansei, Part 2. Was it the second... What is with this weird-ass name? The second turn, not the second chapter, the second part, or the second turn. What the hell? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.